Join the Sangamon County Historical Society as we look at the life of Virginia Eifert. We have John from the Western Illinois University Archives and Tracy from the Illinois State Museum. We are excited to present this program in connection with the Sangamon County Big Read through the National Endowment for the Arts.
I'm John Hallwas, and I'm pleased to be a participant in this Sangamon County Historical Society program on Virginia Eifert. I'm here at the archives of Western Illinois University Library, which has the huge Virginia Eifert collection that was established, 40 years ago. Over the years, I've written articles and books on more than 100 Illinois authors. And one thing that I'm writing still now is a series for Illinois Heritage Magazine that's called Forgotten Voices from Illinois History, because I hate to see talented writers from any generation fade from public awareness. And so one of the writers that I wrote about a couple of years ago, just in 2019, was Virginia Eifert. And in fact, here is a front page view of that magazine, Illinois Heritage, which has a photograph of young Virginia sitting there with a pencil in her hand at the age of probably 5 or 6, already starting to write and to look like a writer. And my article was inside that issue. But I've written about Virginia actually half a dozen times since the 1970s. And in fact, the longest thing I wrote about her appeared in 1978, and it appeared in the Journal of the Illinois State Historical Society, and was called The Achievement of Virginia S. Eifert. And here, in fact, is a copy of that journal from 1978. And you notice that the cover has a photograph, and that is a Virginia Eifert photograph, which was titled Marsh Marigolds, that she did. And so in a sense, the article is the sort of cover story for that issue of the journal, and tells the story in about 25 pages of Virginia's life and the books and other writings that she produced. In fact, in that 1978 article, here's another page that shows an image of young Virginia when she was just a young gal, maybe 19 or 20 years old, was a member of the Nature League in Springfield, and was already starting to write. And here's another image of her a little later in her life when she was working at the Illinois State Museum. She was the editor and main writer for the Living Museum. But in any case, I did an overview of her life, and that was a very enjoyable thing for me. I was very pleased to do that because I was already interested in nature writing of all kinds. In fact, I was at that time, when I started work on that, which was 1976, I was already putting together a new course for Western, which I taught for many years, called American Nature Writing. So I knew a lot about other nature writers. And here was one in Springfield that I know had passed away about 10 years earlier. And I wanted to bring attention to her. So I did that overview of her life and work, and also put some images in that article of her artwork. Let me show you this, for example, a couple of pages that have some of her ink sketches of the outdoors. And as you can tell from these, Eifert, in much of her art, was focused on the design quality of nature, locating, being sensitive to the magnificent designs in nature. She was quite a talented artist in that way. And as a writer, she was very talented in promoting appreciation for the natural world, getting people to see more sensitively, to hear, to be aware of the presence of nature around you, whether it was plants or animals for that matter. So I have enjoyed writing about her since that time. And in fact, after I did that, with the help of her friend at the Illinois State Museum, Orvetta Robinson, we created the Virginia Eifert collection here at the Western Illinois University Library. Also had the help of Herman Eifert, Virginia's husband, and was in contact with some other people and interviewed them, such as Ernestine Snyder, Virginia's sister, who was very helpful in talking about the early years of Virginia. And we eventually created that collection here. And this is a booklet that we did at the library, and it has another artwork by Virginia on the cover, and it's called The Legacy of Virginia S. Eifert, and it's from the early 1980s, and it discusses her life and also discusses the creation of the new collection at the WIU library, which includes not only all of her books, all of her articles in magazines, but a host of other things, letters and diaries, and of course, artworks of various kinds, photographs of her and the family and other things. So it's a massive collection that is very, very helpful to anyone who has an interest in either Virginia Eifert herself as an artist or writer, or for that matter, nature in Illinois and this part of the Midwest. And at the same time, Orvetta Robinson, who became a close friend of mine, and I did a booklet called The Legacy of Virginia S. Eifert too, and in which we did things like create a bibliography, which really Orvetta did, of all the books and articles that Virginia wrote. And then I did an introductory essay to her life and work for that. And that was also in the early 1980s. So let me make some comments about Virginia's life and work. And as a young girl, as I mentioned in that long article, which incidentally was reprinted in the Springfield newspaper, they liked it very well and wanted to share that with people in the Springfield area. And also I got letters from people around the country who were the fans of her books and who wrote to say how wonderful it was to know more about the life of this talented writer and artist. But it all goes back to her childhood in Springfield. She was born in 1911, January 23rd, in fact, 1911, at South Park Avenue in Springfield, and was born into the Snyder family, had a brother and a sister, and they were only a couple blocks from Springfield's lovely Washington Park. And because her mother, Felicie Snyder, was interested in the outdoors and nature also, she often took her kids on excursions to Washington Park especially, but other places as well. And Virginia very early came to love the outdoors and whatever wild things she could encounter there. In fact, she often brought home to the family, as her sister told me when I interviewed her, brought home creatures that she could find, like turtles, for example, or frogs, toads, even once in a while, a snake, a bat once, so that she'd bring them home because she was so fascinated with wild things. And of course, she loved flowers and trees as well. So what that tells us is that very early in Virginia's life, when she was just a young grade school kid, we already saw that, in a sense, she was destined to be focused on the natural world intensively in her life. That was the central interest of her, even as a young child. And she started writing articles when she was just 19 years old. And she created articles for the Springfield newspaper, but also that is the Illinois State Journal at that time. But she also created her own publication called the Nature News, which was a mimeographed publication. And we have a complete run of it, a complete collection of it that Virginia herself had, and that came to us when we created the collection. And for example, here's a page of volume 1, number 1 of the Nature News from 1932. And you see some sketches by Virginia of various birds that were commonly seen. There's a screech owl and a blue jay and some other birds. And then her essay beneath it, talking about different kinds of birds that show up at that time of year. And she created it and created copies, took them in a wagon around town and sold them to people for 5 cents a copy. So in a sense, she had her own nature periodical in Springfield when she was just a young gal. But let me say that Virginia, though she was a good student and always was an avid reader, did not actually finish high school because she became very ill late in her life, and or rather not late in her life, late in her high school years with rheumatic fever, and so spent a lot of time in bed for months during her senior year and didn't finish high school as a result. Later on, she did take a couple of science courses at Eastern Illinois University, but she never was really enrolled in a degree program there. So that's the limit of her formal education. So really, we have here a very talented writer and artist too, who had, in a sense, a limited formal education. Most writers have gone beyond that level, but because she didn't, and because she was very ill during her senior year in high school, and then went to work, she didn't have the kind of college education that we might have otherwise expected her to have. And besides the Nature News, which was a weekly publication that she produced and sold for a nickel around Springfield, she also was a member of the Nature League, which was a forerunner of the Audubon Society in Springfield. And they had a publication called, I don't know if you can see this, it's kind of faint, the Nature League Bulletin. And this issue is February 1938. And it has 3 or 4 articles in it alone by Virginia Eifert. So that Nature League in Springfield already had, fortunately, young Virginia Eifert writing for it as well. And she was influenced by a number of people in her life, but one of them that she was very influenced by was a Reverend Link, who was Reverend George Link, who ran the Springfield Nature League. And he encouraged her and obviously allowed her to publish all sorts of things in the Nature League Bulletin. Another advantage for her of the Springfield Nature League was this figure, Herman Eifert, a young man who would later go on to become a high school science teacher and English teacher both. And this is a retirement shot of him from the 1970s, so much older then, but he was a young guy in his early 20s when he met Virginia, and they became friends partly through the Nature League. Among other things that we've got here in the Virginia Eifert collection is scrapbooks, for example, that early Virginia did. Here's one from the 1930s, for example. Let me hold you up this. This is a page out of a scrapbook that she did that shows a drawing of various drawings of Illinois. Really, Starved Rock is the top one there on the page, but you see her handwriting. She did drawings and handwriting to create her multi-page scrapbooks. And some members of the Nature League took trips around the state, not only to Starved Rock, but also to Cahokia Mounds, for example, also to the northwestern part of the state by Galena and other areas up and down the Mississippi River area. And Virginia was always doing, even as a young woman, and was not really publishing beyond local things, was already doing a lot of artwork. And you can see that in her scrapbooks. Here, for example, some of her artworks of nature items done in color in that scrapbook. She also makes a note that some of that traveling was done with a group of young people from Springfield that included Herman Eifert, for example. And the image that I just showed you of Starved Rock that she drew and made comments on in her scrapbook became important to her and to Herman. And in fact, when they got married in 1936, they got married on top of Starved Rock along the Illinois River. So natural places, areas meant a lot to Virginia. She loved to go back and revisit lovely, distinctive nature places in Illinois and north of Illinois, in Wisconsin especially. And beyond that, she started writing as a young woman in the 1930s for various periodicals like Audubon Magazine, Nature Magazine, and so forth. We've got a complete collection of all of those in the Eifert collection here at the WIU archives. Here, for example, is a cover of Natural History Magazine, which has a lovely, sizable article in it by Virginia about orchids of various kind and the background and history of orchids and the styles and types of them. And here you can see it's illustrated, of course, with her drawings, as so many of her writings are. So she was already creating wonderful drawings and other artwork, even as a young woman, when she was writing for a variety of magazines. And this led, all of this activity led to her being hired by the Illinois State Museum and in 1939, and being asked to create a magazine a periodical published by the Illinois State Museum. And that ended up being called the Living Museum. And we've got of course, a complete run here in the collection of the Living Museum. And what I'm showing you right here is, for example, volume 1, number 1 of the Living Museum that she created. And from 1939, May of 1939, and you'll see there are no photographs in it yet, and there weren't for several months, but there's just typically Virginia's sketches, in this case, one of the bird up there at the top, but other ones in it as well. And several months later, they started including photographs, especially on the front, the cover as well. And she stayed with the Living Museum. It was an immediate success, and she was with it for 27 years, in fact, till she died in 1966. And many people knew her work from her wonderful articles in the Living Museum. And beyond that kind of writing and activity, once she was associated with the Illinois State Museum, led to a variety of short books or monographs, we sometimes call them. Things like, we've got a collection of them here, Illinois Mammals by her. Here's one called Exploring for Mushrooms that was also put out by the museum. Here's one called Flowers That Bloom in the Spring. And here's another one called Invitation to Birds. And those were very popular, and of course distributed through the Illinois State Museum. A longer book that's got a wonderful array of about 100 artworks on birds is called Birds in Your Backyard, which she did also for the Illinois State Museum. But virtually every page of print in the publication has a bird image across the way from it. So many of her own artworks of birds. She was always writing, people that I interviewed, she was always writing not only the current thing, but she was planning, working away, structuring future things she wanted to write also. So it's not surprising that she eventually got into a wide variety of full-length books. One of the books that came along and made a difference in her career was 3 Rivers South, which was a story of young Abe Lincoln, and there's a cover of it. 3 Rivers South is about Lincoln's trip down the Sangamon, the Illinois River, and the Mississippi. And so it's a historical account, but it also richly and effectively depicts the rivers that are mentioned there in the story and the wildlife around them. And she became, in fact, a tremendous voice for rivers here in the Midwest throughout her career, producing a variety of books. Here's just another one called Wonders of the Rivers that she wrote. Here's some others, Mississippi Calling, which is a lovely book, and River World, Wildlife on the Mississippi, that she did also. And she really studied and loved to study the variety of plants and animals along river locales. And one way that she also did that and enjoyed the whole process was take trips on the historic riverboat called the Delta Queen on the Mississippi River. Among the photographs we have in the Eifert collection, here's a shot of Virginia from the 1950s, and she's all dressed up in a 19th century outfit because aboard the Delta Queen. And when the riverboat came to a sizable community and was going to pull up to the dock, she and usually a few others who were dressed in those costumes as well from the 19th century would come down the gangplank and so forth and help create the aura of what 19th century riverfront life and activity was like. She eventually, of course, did this book called The Delta Queen, The Story of a Steamboat, which has a very nice picture on the cover of the steamboat that she traveled in so very often. And sometimes she traveled with friends too, like Orvetta Robinson, for example. But that led to books that were focused on rivers, especially the Mississippi, but rivers in general, through historic times. She wrote, for example, Louis Joliet, Explorer of Rivers, going back in time and talking not only about Louis Joliet's life, but of course about his experience in the wild area along the Mississippi. And this book here is a very inventive one called George Shannon, Young Explorer with Lewis and Clark. So a young man that hadn't been given much attention, who was only a teenager at the time he was with Lewis and Clark, but she was able to get enough information about him and did the George Shannon book. And beyond that, she, aside from rivers, which had a big impact on her and helped to shape her writing career, she wrote a variety of other books, of course. Incidentally, the first Lincoln book, Three Rivers South, led to 4 other Lincoln books for young readers. And that made her a popular writer for young readers for quite a while. And she gained quite a reputation of that sort. Here's another book called Land of the Snowshoe Hare, which deals with a part of the Midwest that she got to know, which is far northern Wisconsin, up by Lake Superior, where she and Herman and their son Larry, they had one child, Larry, who also became incidentally an artist, has spent most of his life in Northern California, but where the family spent vacations in the summertime. And so that's the subject of Land of the Snowshoe Hare, the beautiful kind of wild areas that they had up in that part of Wisconsin. And she loved it very much. And another book that she did on that related to vacation times and so forth is called Journeys in Green Places, which is the shores and woods of Wisconsin's Door Peninsula. The Door Peninsula, of course, juts out into Lake Michigan. And Journeys in Green Places describes this gorgeous area where she spent, eventually, starting in 1957, she spent a couple of weeks every year teaching at a place called The Clearing, which was not far from Ellison Bay. And incidentally, one painting that of hers also in the collection, we've got a number of her oil paintings too. And this one here shows Ellison Bay, Wisconsin. And it was done in about 1960 and shows it along Lake Michigan there, the beautiful wild area, the small villages that were part of that area. But she spent time, especially at the clearing, which was a noted nature area. And she was the most popular teacher in the clearing for years. And here is a postcard, because for my research on Eifert back in the late 1970s, I went up to the clearing, and here's a postcard shot of a lovely building that's a main building at the clearing, where people got together and they got organized and went out and did nature hikes and took classes from people like Virginia. And so the very lovely place in Door County. And Virginia later wrote about her experience there too. In fact, she wrote about so much that she took part in the natural world. And here's one of her diaries of teaching up in the clearing. It's called simply The Clearing, and it dates from 1957, has a sketch of a tree on the front of it that she did. But it is really a diary of her experience with the natural world and her teaching in that famous nature area in Wisconsin at that time. And she did more than one diary of teaching at the clearing, and we have all those here also, as well as a number of letters by her and sometimes to her from other people relating to the outdoor experiences up there and to other aspects of her life. Eifert continued to do major writing about combining history and the natural world. Here, for example, is a book called Men, Birds, and Adventure. And it is the thrilling story of the discovery of American birds. In other words, famous people like Audubon, for example, and the kind of birds that they discovered generations ago in wild early America. And that's what she was interested in. She did much research on that in order to produce the book, but she combined her sensitivity to birds and her awareness of different kinds of birds and their habitats with the study of the lives of many early botanists. Another similar book is Tall Trees and Far Horizons that she wrote in the 1960s. And it's called, subtitled, Adventures and Discoveries of Early Botanists in America. So she did a similar kind of book talking about early botanists and what they discovered and wrote down in their diaries or other accounts. And so we have a sense of the record of sensitive, aware people discovering aspects of the natural world in America. So in a sense, Eifert has some distinctive aspects to her focus on the natural world. The late in her life, let me say, which is the mid-1960s, she started to take an interest in the environmental crisis. I mentioned this in my 1978 discussion of her life. For example, she says at one point in one of her writings from 1966 for the Living Museum, one of her essays, she says, the urgent trend is to go back toward our roots. We need to drink at the source, to know the wild places, to learn their truths. Yet now, ironically, when we reach out for nature, much of it has gone away from us. And she laments the decline of nature. And she starts warning about the difficulty of continuing when the natural world isn't cherished and taken care of. The same, excuse me, the same issue of the Living Museum that presents that essay also reports that Virginia Eifert was dead. So late in her life, she did become an advocate of environmental problems that needed attention, but she was just moving into that aspect of her nature study and nature writing when in fact she suddenly died. And she died from a defective heart valve suddenly that they felt was very clearly related to her childhood bout with rheumatic fever that kept her in bed during her senior year in high school and kept her from graduating. So she died in 1966, and she was only 55 years old. One of the things, and let me show you this. This is the special cover of the Living Museum at that time in the middle of summer in 1966, which of course has Virginia's photograph on the cover of it. Everybody was shocked and dismayed at the sudden death of this great talented figure. Another thing that the museum did was put out a book called Essays on Nature, which was a selection of essays from the pages of the Living Museum. And it's a wonderful, wonderful volume that people need to be familiar with because it has some of her best writings in it. Virginia was, in fact, a great writer of the small, or fairly short, that is to say, descriptive essay. Really a brilliant writer of that sort. And so some of her very best writings were in the Living Museum and ended up in the collection called Essays on Nature, which came out from the Illinois State Museum within a year or so after she died. I believe it came out in 1967. So she was a remarkable figure that everybody increasingly came to recognize as a very talented writer whose career was unfortunately cut short because of that tragic heart valve problem relating to her disease as a youngster. I would say that many of her books are out of print, and it would be worthwhile for people to think about, and including the Sangamon County Historical Society, think about putting together another volume of writings by Virginia Eifert that extends beyond the Living Museum. Because, for example, at a place like the Eifert collection at the WIU archives, you've got all of the nature news, you've got the Springfield Nature League Bulletin, you've got all sorts of other articles by her that appeared in many magazines, and other unpublished things that she wrote about the natural world that never have been published. In fact, we even have the manuscript of a book she was working on when she died called Listen for the Crying Loon. And we've got the manuscript that never appeared. But people could put together a very nice volume of her selected writings of a big variety of kinds. And of course, there's many artworks, oil paintings, drawings, and other things, hundreds of them that people could, that do survive and that people could also select from to illustrate a volume of Eifert's writings. She was a remarkably talented figure, and I'm glad that people at the Sangamon County Historical Society are maintaining public awareness of her wonderful achievement and contribution to our appreciation for the natural world. Thanks very much for having me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy Pierceall. I've been the librarian at the Illinois State Museum for the last 3.5 years. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about Virginia Eifert's legacy with the Illinois State Museum. I've been drawn to her writing and art since I started here, so it was a wonderful opportunity for me to make new discoveries about her prolific work. Virginia had a number of passions. She was a naturalist, an artist, a writer, and a poet. After I started working as the museum librarian, I first learned of Virginia Eifert because of her writing, so that's where I decided to start today. First, I want to give a little bit of background on Virginia's role in the museum. In 1939, the Illinois State Museum hired Virginia Eifert to develop its new publication to educate the people of Illinois on the treasures both within the museum as well as throughout the state. The first issue of the Living Museum was published in May of 1939, with Virginia serving as the editor and main contributor to the publication. For 27 years, she oversaw the creation of 326 issues, writing, editing, and illustrating the publication until her passing in 1966. While the publication continued on after her death, noticeably absent was her unique voice and way of looking at the world. In addition to all of the work she did towards molding the fledgling museum magazine, she also wrote a number of other museum publications, many of which she provided illustrations for, both in the form of sketch drawings as well as paintings. Here you can see 5 booklets from the Story of Illinois series on the left, and then 2 books in the Popular Science series on the right. As you probably already know, Virginia was a prolific and award-winning writer, and it should come as no surprise that the library has multiple copies of all of her books, both on the shelves and in the archives. A couple of years ago, a special collection was developed in the library specifically for Virginia's popular works, as well as her museum contributions, so they would all be in one place. This special collection is housed at the Maine Museum Library in the museum's Research and Collection Center in Springfield. In the main ISM building in Springfield is the library archive, which contains more of the rare items in the Virginia Eifert collection. Virginia was proud of the Illinois State Museum and the work she did here. She was a regular contributor to the Know Your Museum column in the Illinois State Journal, now the Illinois State Journal Register, where she regularly shared goings-on at the museum. She collected the clippings in this scrapbook. Virginia published dozens of articles in various magazines and journals, including Natural History, Getting at Nature, Audubon Magazine, Canadian Nature, Illinois Conservation, Outdoors in Illinois, Illinois Libraries, and Illinois History. As part of the archive, previous librarians collected all of the articles Virginia wrote over the years, both originals of her works as well as copies. In her writing, Virginia Eifert painted pictures with her words, but she also had a talent for telling stories with her art. The Illinois State Museum is fortunate to have the originals of a number of the drawings she made for the publications featuring mushrooms, birds, and flowers. For years, they've been safely hidden away in our climate-controlled vault as part of the library archive. But a couple of years ago, all of the illustrations were digitized and made available via the Illinois Digital Archives so that everyone could enjoy them. In the last few months, I was happy to discover that the Illinois State Museum's Virginia Eifert collection extends outside of the library and archive. The art department also has a notable collection of her works. This untitled piece features a pen and ink sketch, a deceptively simple word for such detailed work. This handmade card is called Fröhliche Weihnachten, which is German for Merry Christmas. Inside the card, she wrote a sweet poem to her friend Esther in beautiful calligraphy. Here we find another card made for Virginia's friend Esther. The outside of the card has a lovely yellow rose, and it reads, "Look inside and you will see a rosy gift to you from me." Then inside, the gift is revealed. This piece features a ship sailing on the open seas, the wind filling the sails. Unfortunately, I don't have any other context for this piece. We have multiple pieces where Virginia captured the images of birds and trees. This particular piece is done in a very similar style to those in the collection of birds, flowers, and mushrooms. In fact, this one is nearly identical to one in that collection, though a bit larger. Here we have a painting that's done in a similar fashion to the previous, though with more color. And here we have an oriole and magnolias. As you may have noticed, Virginia sometimes liked to combine her artistic and writing skills. This poem, with a bonus poem on the envelope, features simple sketches along the margins. The next couple of slides provide close-ups of the poem and drawings so you can see them a little better. And I apologize if these are a little bit blurry. I wanted to blow up the sketches so you could see them. This is one of my favorites. The attention to detail is remarkable, from the simple shading in the background to the woman's detailed dress and the dangling hearts. The image includes the words, "To my Valentine." Here's a close-up of the image so you can see the collage work she included in the clothing. And the final piece in our collection, Fairy in a Garden, which includes sketches and watercolor. And here's a close-up so you can see the fine attention to detail. To call Virginia merely a writer or an artist is to understate her talent. Her prose was poetic, calling the reader to join her on a journey to remote natural lands, to hear the calling of a whippoorwill, or to feel the breeze as it moves through the trees in fall. Her words and her art are her legacy, which have been recognized many times and in many different ways through exhibitions, as well as collections of her writing that illustrated her way with words. Virginia had planned to publish a collection of her essays from the Living Museum, but unfortunately she passed away before she could do so. So in 1967, the Illinois State Museum published Essays on Nature, a collection of Virginia's most popular work written during her years here. In 1981, Western Illinois University hosted an exhibit of her works. In conjunction with the exhibit, the Illinois State Museum's librarian, Orvetta Robinson, wrote a bibliography listing her many accomplishments. It also included an introductory biography by John Hallwas from the Western Illinois University. With permission from Western, this resource has been digitized and made available on the Illinois Digital Archives. Virginia was a woman who was most in her element when she was outside enjoying nature. She saw magic in everyday things, and she brought that magic to others through her art and writing. She was a woman of many talents, and she generously shared those talents with others, teaching them to see the magic in nature too. I want to leave you with some words written by Virginia herself. It's an untitled poem found at the beginning of the Essays on Nature book. It reads, "When city noise and city stress conspire to wreck my happiness, when television, cars, and noise usurp the place of forest joys, then to my heart come memories of lakes and bogs and quiet trees. I listen, and again I hear the cries of wild geese drawing near. I listen, and my heart's deep core knows lake waves lapping on a shore, the gentle sounds of leaves at night, the wakening of flowers to light. Once more the fox is on the ridge, a bluebird nests beside a bridge. The hummingbird, a whirring gem, adorns the lily's diadem, while every bird song heard again helps to alleviate my pain. The misty silver of the bay, where gull wings pattern early day. The hermit thrush's wistful chime beside a bog at sunset time. The message of a meteorite penciling fire across the night, the fragrance of the pines and rain, cloud shadows drifting over grain. All these are surcease, balm, and joy when work is hard and tasks annoy. And so I mortgage city stress, anticipating wilderness. Thank you for letting me share the treasures from the Virginia Eifert collection at the Illinois State Museum. If you have any questions or would like to know more about the work shared here today, please feel free to send me an email. Thank you.